Alright, what's going on, y'all? So today we have the esteemed pleasure of having a conversation with the one and only DJ Spades. He's been in the music business for a long time, right? And we'll get into how long he's been there in a minute. Stay tuned.
So what's going on, Mr. Ace of Spades?
Everything, man. 2020 is my year. I've been saying that for years, but this year is gonna be a year for real.
So what makes this year different than previous years that you've used that 20? This is my year.
The number. I mean, I've been saying this since the 80s. Yeah, this is my year. 92. Yeah, this is my year, son. 2001. Yeah, this is my year. It's just a number.
It's just a number.
And now it's nothing to it but to do it.
So what? Why? So it's like a New Year's resolution kind of thing.
Yeah, everybody makes resolutions, and some people follow through with it, and most people don't.
Like I'm used to that.
I did.
Pull forward some. Pull the chair forward. Alright, cool. How long you been DJing?
40 some years, yeah, long time. Been playing records since '75.
So how did you get into DJing?
I always loved records. Like, we would go to my grandmother's house and everybody would be playing with whatever they was playing with, and I would play with records. My grandmother had these collection of 45s, a lot of stuff from Motown and Atlantic and Buddha and a whole bunch of old stuff like from the 60s. And I just loved the color of the labels, and I just loved playing with the records, and I would take them home. My grandmother always jack her records. And I would take them home and I would play them, and I just loved listening to them. And I would listen to Frankie Crocker on the radio, the earliest DJ that I can remember on the radio. And I wanted to be like him and just play music. So that's how it started.
That's dope. So what was your first experience playing music for a crowd?
Well, my first experience was when I was around 6 or 7, and we would have birthday parties at my house. My mother had a lot of kids, so it was always a birthday party or something like that. People would come over, and I would just play records, and it was just as simple as that. And, whatever I had, I played it, and then we would do musical chairs and all that other crap, and it was just fun. And I just loved playing records.
That's cool.
So it just kind of took off from there.
Who set it up? The first birthday party, like was it Mom, I want to play records for everybody, or was it like
it just happened? It wasn't a discussion. It was like it was a birthday party because one of us had a birthday. People were over, and I just happened to put records on. It was just no discussion. It's just something that was done. And at everybody's house there was always some kind of music playing, whatever it was. They might have had a cassette playing, or most people just had the radio on. Or back in the days they used to have the little spindle thing. The original playlist was when you had the spindle and you put all the records there, and they would drop down one at a time, and it would just do that. That was like the original playlist. So that's what most people did. I just threw the records on myself because I just like doing it.
So after you played your first party for the family, was everybody like, let me get my nephew to come and play for this party? So how did
Nobody was in that mindset at the time. People was like, you had the family over, and somebody just happened to be the one that played the music. At my house, I was just the one that played the music. At other people's houses, it just wasn't like either somebody was just playing records in general, or they would put an album on and just let that play, or they'd have the radio on, or they just have no music at all until it's time to play musical chairs. Yeah, it was simpler back then. It wasn't a whole thing like, everybody was a DJ at the time. Nobody thought of that back then.
So it's kind of like when you go to a barbecue, right? And whoever's the first person to get there is normally gonna be the cook, because they gotta warm the grill up. You gotta put the charcoal on. You gotta make sure that it's evenly lit. Then you put the first bunch of meat on for everybody to get there, and before you know it.
And if there's some music, somebody has a boombox or some cassettes, and that's usually how it starts back then. Like, this is pre-Cool Herc and the whole thing, and how that spanned all over New York and eventually the globe.
Yeah. I had an opportunity to have a conversation with Cool Herc, and he was telling me that he ran the story down to me how it started. I think it was his sister's party.
Right.
And he just played music, and then he kept, and then it got so big that they couldn't. I think it was the community center that he was using,
Right.
and then he couldn't use the community center anymore, and then he used a park, and then we, fast forward, X amount of years, now we got hip hop, right, and it's just like the little shit that we do, we don't realize, because we're looking at it in the moment. We're not looking at it like the first time you played music. You're not looking at it like I'm gonna be a DJ for 40 years. You didn't look at it like that, right? But that shit happened, right? That's dope, man. And we, the little things that we do every day, create history. Like for 20, 40 years from now, or 100 years from now, they're gonna be telling the story of, DJ Ace of Spades. Yeah. That was my uncle. I remember my granddad, and I remember he DJ'd my my auntie's first party, and they was little, and they're gonna be telling the same story, man.
Yeah.
That's dope. That's dope. So, how was the transition for you from early 90s carrying crates to laptops and Serato?
I resisted the change for a while. Like I was cool with carrying the crates, and I had always with my set. I had a cassette player and I had a CD player, and I bought I bought music in all different formats. I was totally against the laptop thing when it first came out, because the first time I seen it, I was at the 5 Spot. And this dude was like, yo, this new DJ thing came out, and he had this laptop, and he was pressing this button, and it was making scratching noise. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? like, come on, real DJs play records. You want to scratch, you use a record, and you pull it back, and you make the scratch noise. Yeah. And he's like using the mouse, and he's clicking. It's like, what the, like, really? I'm like, all right, bet. So, fast forward from that, the CDJs came out.
Yeah,
this is before like the laptop thing really got big. Other than that dude at the 5 Spot. So the CDJs came out, and I used to play CDs, and I just started working with that a little bit along with the vinyl. And I remember one DJ, he seen me using the CDJs, like, oh, you sold out using the CDJs. But I got my vinyl here too. It's just, I gotta join the CD. Let me play with these and see how it works. Eventually, like other clubs, they started phasing out the turntables and put in those CD decks. They weren't CDJs with the turntables, but they had like the regular decks and like the drawers that pulled out, and you put the CDs in there and you press the buttons and whatnot. So I would have my wax with me, but there was no turntable, so I had to use the CDs that I had. Luckily I had them, so I just started using those. And then Final Scratch was out, which nobody uses anymore. I only seen one DJ use Final Scratch. And then Scratch Live came out, and a whole bunch of DJs jumped on Scratch Live. And it's like, oh yeah, we can use these, we don't gotta carry crates no more. I'm like, fuck that, real DJs use records. And I carried my records for years and years after that. But then the record pools stopped getting vinyl. So that's what made me the change, because I still have my wax. I used to go to Universal and Def Jam would still get records, but then they would stop giving DJs records. And they would start giving the promo copies to like the underground record stores, and they'd be selling the promo copies, which is something they always did, but I was always able to get the stuff from the labels. They stopped giving me the stuff, and I wasn't paying for promo copies. So I'm like, if I want to keep playing, I gotta do something. So I just went straight CD. But then the quality of the CDs changed. So like, they were like see-through and shit, and like they was just like, they would last for like 1 or 2 plays, or if you burned it, it wouldn't really work. So I was tired of wasting money on CDs. So I'm like, I gotta do something. So I hit up a DJ, Music Maestro. I'm like, yo, I need you to teach me how to use the Serato shit. So I borrowed his box, and when I had gigs, I would borrow the box, and I would take it with me, and then I would give it back, and I just got on the Serato thing, and it just took off from there. And some DJs didn't like it, but I don't care what they like. I gotta get paid, and I gotta do what I gotta do. And if I was just doing old school, I could do a 70s party all day with vinyl. But if I want to play new music, when times change, you gotta change the times. You get left behind.
Yeah,
it's just the way it is. So I had to go that route. So Scratch Live, just rocking with it, still rocking with it.
Shout out to Music Maestro.
Yeah.
Word.
But he's my go-to DJ if I'm doing an event and I'm not DJing it.
Yeah. So you eventually, inevitably,
yeah,
reluctantly, right, got into using Serato. So now that you're acclimated, you've been using it for a while. How do you look at your resistance to it initially?
I laugh about it. You know, I mean, I'm glad I held on as long as I did though, because you know it was dope. But I'm glad I changed because number one, I had to, and number two, I'm old and I don't need to carry 20 crates to a gig. But the way I get music now is kind of overwhelming sometimes. Because like before, if I had 6 crates at a party, if I'm looking through records to find something to play, I can only work with what's there. Now I got 3 terabytes worth of music that I'm working around with. So I'm not at the type, some DJs, they plan their set list ahead of time. I was never that technical with it. I'm not the technical DJ. I go on the fly. So if I'm playing, let's say Candy Rain by Soul For Real, I'm gonna look for something that'll go along with that. And I'll find, I'm gonna put this on, and then I'll put that on. I don't do it ahead of time. I kind of freestyle when I'm DJing. So if I'm looking through 3 terabytes of music, it's just hard to find joints on the fly really quickly.
Yeah.
And then some songs, I'll have 50, 60 versions of the same song. Remixes, mashups, blends, redrums, all types of stuff. So I gotta scroll through all this stuff to find records, and sometimes that gets a little overwhelming. And then organizing the music, that part gets to me sometimes.
What do you mean?
Well, like, let's say today, I get new music from wherever I get it from. I put it in these folders. Next week, I'm gonna get more new music, and I might get redrums from some older joints, and I might get some remixes and whatever. I gotta figure out how to keep organizing that, and then loading it back into Serato. And then sometimes I'll go in Serato while I'm DJing at a thing, and I'll look for a file, and it's not there, because I might have moved it, reorganizing it, but didn't reload that back into the Serato thing. So a lot of times some files might be corrupted. I used to get that a lot.
Yeah.
So I have like 2 seconds left on this song. I put this song on and it pops up and it's corrupted. Like, oh shit, now I gotta find another song to play.
Yeah.
So that part, that's the downfall with the technology. But other than that, I love rocking with it now. Everything is lighter. But there's the good with the bad with everything.
I have I got a setup at the shop, and I know exactly what you're talking about when files get corrupted or songs go missing. You're not using the same external hard drive. What I figured out was you have 2 external hard drives. Hopefully the same size, whether it be 3 terabytes or whatever, and you keep one there. Like wherever you keep it in your bag, right? And then you keep a second one that you're making your updates to, that you keep putting new, like all of the new music on it. But you don't make the playlist in the hard drive. You make the playlist in the crate inside the program. That way, the hard drive, the songs never leave wherever their origin, their location. It never leaves the location, so the program can always find it, right? But as long as you keep making the playlist inside the program, it always can relate to the song, and that way you can have a ton of playlists. Like, because I'm not a DJ, right? But I play records, so I figure I can't freestyle and be like, oh, this song will go with this song. I can't do that. So I'll be like, yo, what are all of the songs that are popping right now? And I'll do this 3-4 days before. I'll be like, yo, this is good, this is good, this is good. And I'll put all of them shits, I'll line them motherfuckers up one by one, right? So then when it's time to play, I'll put the first record on, and I wait till the last 2 seconds, then I turn to the next record, and it's because I watch DJs who, shout out to DJs, man. Like, yo, you don't really understand how difficult a job is until you try that shit yourself.
Right.
I appreciate the effort that DJs put into their craft, right? So I will watch a DJ, right? I can't remember the brother's name, right? So he was playing the records. He would play like the first 8 to 10 seconds of the record and then switch records.
Yeah, I call that speeding. DJ Reg West calls it Serato syndrome. But now they go a lot faster than they used to, because they just line them all up and then this one on, this one on, this one, and this one on. Like, I heard a DJ, I forgot who it was, on Hot 97 say he was going to some club and he was going to play, I think he said 20,000 records in 20 minutes. And I'm like, that's just bananas.
That's crazy.
Like, they're competing to see how many records they can put on as quickly as humanly possible.
Yeah. That's wild.
Like, I like to hear the record. And shout out to Maestro, he DJ'd my baby shower before my daughter was born. And my family's there, I told them, like, they don't go to the clubs, just play the records. And he just was speeding, and my cousins kept coming to me, he won't play the record. Every time they dance to something, he'll throw something on, and he'll switch to something else. Like, yo, Maestro, you gotta slow down. You know, this ain't the club.
Yeah.
They're not used to that. You gotta play the record, at least the first verse.
Yeah. That's what I was referring to. Speeding. I didn't know that's what it was called.
I call it that.
You call it-
That's
okay,
what they
I
do.
got you,
They're
I
just
got you.
speeding through the records. Like they gotta slow that shit down.
There was a spot. DJ D Nice was there. They have a group. It's like 3 of them or whatever. I forget the name of the group, whatever. But that night we was there, and he would play the intro to one record, and then when the drop comes, he'll go to the next record. And I watched how the crowd reacted to it. Like it was like a consistent adrenaline rushes. Like because he played like 40 songs really quickly. He was going from this record that he played. It was what's the name? The beginning of the big joint, Juicy, when it dropped. Mm-hmm. It was all up and went to something else, and I was like, oh, that was hot. But he kept doing it, and then it was like, no, you don't get to hear the record. But if you watch the crowd, they love that shit. It's like crack.
Some people love it more than others. Like back when Fiesta was popping, I used to play the intro after the show. It's the after party, and then after probably this, and then I would throw on something else. Mm-hmm. And people would come up to me mad, like, yo, I wanted to hear that song, son. I could do that trick with any other song, but when I do that with the Fiesta remix and then I throw something else on, people used to be pissed. Every time I did that, somebody came to the booth, like, yo, I wanted to hear that, son. Like, they put money in a jukebox, and I unplugged the joint. They would come up tight.
Oh.
I still did it. I kept doing it, but every time I did it, like clockwork, I wanted to hear that, son.
So now talk about what is that experience like as a DJ while you're playing music and somebody runs up to the booth, yo, I want to hear this, yo, I want to hear that.
Back in the days, it was cool, especially if you're in the big clubs. They would actually tip you if they wanted to hear certain songs. Mm-hmm. So they're like, yo, can you play so and so? I'm like, all right, and they go shake your hand. They leave you like $5 bill, 20 or whatever it is. You have no problem playing that shit. But then there's certain things. I used to do a lot of corporate parties, a lot of job parties, office parties, and stuff like that. And mostly white people. There's always that one black dude that work at the office that want to hear some shit that they shouldn't be playing at the office party. Like, yo, can you play Annie Up? Like, you know I can't play Annie Up. Why not? This is the job, B. And I want to get this gig next year, so you need to chill. Like, yo, can you play Put It In Your Mouth? No, I can't play Put It In Your Mouth. We're not in the hood. We're at the office party and some luxurious shit in Midtown. I can't play that shit. You know, so I used to get that a lot. But now, people come up to me like, yo, you have so-and-so, and it's like some record that might be on SoundCloud or some shit that nobody ever heard of that this particular group of people likes listening to. Or people, put the phone in my face. Listen to this. Like, we in the club. It's loud in here. I can't hear your phone. Yeah. Or you can put my earbuds on. I'm not putting that thing in my ear. Either I have the record or I don't. And now, a lot of people are so used to the computers and just typing anything in and stuff will come up. And if I don't have it loaded in my Serato crates, I can't just pull it up. Yeah. So people are like, you have so-and-so. No, I don't have that record. Well, just type it in. I can't just type it in. They want me to give me a tutorial of how I can't, I just can't type it in and that's that. Yeah. They don't understand why.
It's unfortunate, bro. I'm sorry you go through that.
But I get a lot of, especially kids. Yeah. I DJ a lot of kids parties. Mm-hmm. And the kids want to hear all type of ratchet stuff. The adults want me to play kid music, like nursery rhyme type shit. Mm-hmm. And nobody over the age of 4 wants to listen to nursery rhymes and Baby Shark and stuff like that. So the kids be like, yo, can you play City Girls? Play Act Up. Like, shorty, I can't play that. Like, yo, play this, play Migos, play some other shit, yo, play Bobby Shmurda. Like, yo, shorty, man, you're wilding in here, man. Grandma's over there, I can't play that crap.
So the question, because I experienced that a lot, right? Because I do a lot of kids' parties. So the question is always, is how do you know about the record, right? And does your mother allow you to listen to that record? Because then I would be like, I'm big brother record police telling you shouldn't be listening to something if your mom's allow you to listen to that.
I mean, if they listen to the radio, they'll be exposed to a whole lot of stuff. And because I can't believe half the stuff that's playing on radio now. But then I think about, sometimes my daughter has one of my old phones, and it has a playlist of old songs in it. I'll hear her singing some things, I can't believe some of the stuff that was on the radio when I was a kid. Yeah. I mean, the stuff, when I listen to the lyrics now as an adult, the stuff that I listened to as a kid was bananas. Like, why did my mother let me listen to this stuff? But this is stuff that was on the radio. So now this is stuff that's on the radio. It's just a little bit worse, and they're a little more colorful with their lyrical content and how they express themselves. And a lot of parents do listen to a lot of that stuff in front of their kids, because a lot of these parents are younger than parents were when we were coming up, and they listen to the same stuff. So I go to a lot of kids. My daughter, you know, her friends invite her to parties, and I go to her a lot of stuff. And the parents, the music they play is the ratchet stuff that these kids want to hear at the parties that I happen to be DJing, where I can't play that stuff. So they're exposed to it through their parents in a lot of instances. Like I went to one party for a 1-year-old, and the kid's mother's friend was playing music. She's playing Baby Shark and like the Wheels on the Bus. And the kid's mother's like, no, I don't want to hear that crap. And then she changed the thing and put her phone in the Bluetooth and was playing all kind of fuck you hip hop shit in front of a whole bunch of little kids. And that's what she wanted to do. That's what she wanted to do. But that's how these kids get exposed to it in a lot of cases. It's either through friends at school or through their parents who just happen to listen to that.
You know, it is what it is. You know, I think it still takes a village to raise a child, right?
Yeah.
And I think collectively, I think we gotta find a way. We gotta find a comfortable, unoffensive way to tell somebody you're fucking wilding, right? I don't know what those words are. I haven't figured them out yet.
Listen to the village anymore. Like back in the days, if I was walking the streets and the upstairs neighbor see me wilding, she could check me. And now you can't say nothing to nobody's kids.
Yeah.
No matter what they do. The kid could shoot somebody. No, my baby, you can't do this to them. Like, he shot somebody. Like, he's no angel. You can't check nobody's kids no more. You can't tell them tie your shoe. You can't tell them nothing. Oh, you don't talk to my child. So people aren't letting the village raise their kids anymore.
Yeah, I had a real hurtful experience. I was in the Bronx, and it was on a side block, so there's no stop signs, right? It's just, you know, this direction that I'm traveling is just traffic flow. You're just going. So I'm driving, and there's a little kid on a scooter, right? And I guess his mother is around 15 feet behind him, but she's looking at her phone, and he's on a scooter, and I'm blowing down the block. And I see him, so I'm gonna slow down, but I'm like, what if I was on my phone and I wasn't looking, right? And I mowed the little kid down, right? So I'm watching, so to get her attention, I slammed the brakes so you can hear skirt. Then she looks up. She sees the car stop, looks back down at the phone. So I was like, yo, I said, sis, I think you should hold his hand while he's crossing the street. Cause if I didn't see him, I would have, and before I could say hit him, she screams at me, mind your fucking business. And I said, that hurt, right? Of course it was us, right? You know, and I'm like, yo, but if I would have hit him, this conversation would be different.
Right.
So I'm just trying to get you to understand that maybe while you're crossing the street with your 6-year-old, that's not the best time to be on your cell phone, right? But she took offense to it, you know, and that just, it made me feel like maybe next time I shouldn't say anything, right? And I don't think that's not the place that I want to be in. I want to be able to see somebody and be like, you know, like, yo, that's not the best way to do that. You should try something different. You know, there are more effective ways, or more, there are better ways to do what you're trying to do. You know, it's you know, it's a tragic situation, man. And I think that I don't know if we'll go back to the old way, right? Because it's getting worse. Like, parents go to the schools not to have a conversation with the teacher, but to defend their children. And that's a whole different mindset. Like, right. You're going there with the intention of, they can't talk to my kid, they can't reprimand they should have gave my kid a better grade. And like, no, you have to first go there, find out what's happening, why is it happening, and then you deal with that. You don't go there trying to reprimand somebody that's teaching your children, right? Because if you knew better than them, you should be teaching your children, right? But then I can't make those kind of statements, because then that leads to, oh, well, you know, I got to be doing this and I got to work and that, like, you know. So I don't say nothing, you know, I don't say anything, you know, but, yo, we got to figure out, you know, something. You know, we got to figure out something to do with us, you know.
We need to have community meetings like other communities do. And then we can fix a lot of things, not just with our families, but with the community in general. Because we have no control over what goes on in our communities. And other people do in their areas.
So that's a good point. right? So what does a community meeting sound like? What would be the bullet points on a community meeting?
It depends on what the agenda is at any particular time. But if you go to certain neighborhoods, McDonald's can't just pop up in there and set up shop. Subway, Home Depot, they just can't go in there. We have local businesses here, they'll be affected by this. You can't just do this. I went down 125th Street one day. I was going on my way to the train. I was with my daughter, and this white guy handed me a petition to keep Amazon from setting up shop in Astoria because the gentrification there would raise up rents. And I'm like, if white people have a problem with this, then it's really a problem. I had no problem putting my real name on his petition. But like, we have to control what goes on in our communities. Every corporate entity in the world can set up shop in the hood, and nobody says nothing about it. And it messes up local businesses. We don't have no businesses in the hood. We make up a large population of New York City, but only 3% of the businesses in New York City are owned by black people. That's a real fact.
Yeah.
And in my neighborhood, there's not one single business owned by black people. Everything is either East Indian, Dominican, Korean, or corporate. Not one single black business. And we need to have control over that. Because I can't go to Borough Park and set up shop over there without going through the community board. If I want to, I'm gonna go to Borough Park and set up a club, or put up a restaurant, or put up anything. I gotta go through the community board. We need a community board. We need to control what goes on in our community, because everybody else does.
Absolutely. Yo, I appreciate you coming out, and taking your time, having a conversation with me. Hopefully you like the headshots. We got a bunch of good shots, yeah. All right, end of this. So tune in, next time. We be back, or we won't. Right, so that is how that works. Right,
That's what's up.
Yeah, man, definitely want to thank Ace of Spades for coming, hanging out with us. Just having a conversation, sharing his thoughts, his views. You get a brief glimpse of history, every time you talk to somebody who's been doing something for a while. And hopefully you get to learn, something in the process. I've learned a lot. Again, shout out to Ace of Spades, and all right, so we see you guys next time, we're here.